Hey guys, welcome back to Dividends Friday, where every Friday 8 p.m. I'll be sharing with you an insight of a stock that I may want to keep for dividends. And due to popular demand, today I'll be talking about a time-sensitive opportunity in Singapore. And what is this talk about? Come, let me just show you. But before that, please remember to subscribe to our channel and click on the notification button so that you do not miss out any of our discussion on these dividends. Let me start by telling you a story. Okay, there was this man who was driving his new Porsche that cost him, I don't know, $500,000. When he stopped his car and was parking, he opened the door, and before he knew it, a very fast car drove by and hit into the door of his Porsche. The door flew off and went onto the ground. This man was so angry. He called the police, and when the police officer came, he kept complaining and saying, "Hey, look at my door, my brand new Porsche. I paid so much for my Porsche, and the door flew off because of this guy who actually drove past." The police officer looked at this gentleman and he was shaking his head. And the police officer said, "Sir, I want to tell you something. You are so focused on your brand new Porsche. Do you even know that your hand is ripped off?" So this guy looked at his hand and he began to scream. He said, "Oh no, my Rolex!" Okay, it's meant to be a joke, but if you do not get this guy was so focused on the things in life that he did not even notice that his body was ripped off. And today, what we're going to talk about is, in fact, this stock called Rolex. Not really Rolex, but we want to talk about luxury watch retailers. So this is a segment that I'll be looking at in Singapore, because especially if we know in Asia, Singapore is one of the interesting places that many tourists like to come and buy luxury goods, especially from China, from Japan, from many parts of the world. They like to come to Singapore, and these rich tourists, they will just grab one of these luxury items, which is shouldn't cost a lot to them when you compare to their net worth. But of course, we are facing some headwind, because even in China, you know that the growth is actually slowing down. So will all this affect, and where is the opportunity? I'm looking at these two stocks, the Hourglass and Cortina watch. They may not be pure dividend play, but let me show you some of the opportunities that I noticed. So come, let me take a look at Hourglass, because you see that the price has been dropping from a high of 88 cents all the way down to currently it is 66 cents. Well, for me, I will be waiting a little bit more before buying in, and I'll show you why. But let me show you why am I interested in these stocks and why particularly Hourglass. Now, when you look at the price of Rolex, I've been searching online. I'm not really a Rolex watch person. If you look at what I buy, I got myself a Fitbit to check the number of steps that I clock in. But let me show you this. A piece of Rolex costs you $80. No, when I first checked, I said, could it be so cheap? It's actually books about Rolex, okay? They actually created books about watches. But let me show you. If you scroll down, you'll see that a used Rolex is like, I don't know, $5,000 and even to $30 over $1,000. I'm sure you will see more shocking prices. Okay, 100 over 1,000. Walk into an Hourglass and have the experience there of them serving you. They have very good customer service. Well, they must have, and we'll talk about it in a moment's time. So you can see that Hourglass, what do? They own boutique retailers selling watches, and these are the brands that they own. You can see Rolex, Patek Philippe, I do not know how to pronounce this. Argmas Pregur. Okay, doesn't really matter. The key thing is this. I want to show you whether they are efficient in actually making some cash together. Okay, but you can see that they are in like 7 different countries: Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Hong Kong, Japan, Australia. So you can see that they have been expanding, and I see that they continue to want to innovate. And let me show you why. Now, let's take a look at the Hourglass right now. If I zoom in right now, you can see a few key indicators. Right now, the dividend yield is only 3.05%. That's why I'm saying that I'll wait a little bit more, maybe when it hit 4% or 3.5% before I enter. But the thing that's attractive, my reason for this thesis for Hourglass, if you can look here, the price to book ratio is 0.85 and the PE ratio is 7.15. This is the portion that's attractive to me, price to book ratio. Now, when we talk about price to book ratio, it's because Hourglass, what do they own? They own lots of luxury watches made of gold, made of diamond, and therefore their tangible assets are something that's really valuable. Okay, so in my opinion, when the price to book is as such below 1, in fact at 0.85, not super undervalued, but I think it is a good time to pick up a bit of this stock. Again, the usual disclaimer, please do your own due diligence. Now let me show you why I prefer Hourglass as an investment as compared to Cortina watches. So in order to do that, we'll zoom into the financials of the Hourglass versus Cortina holdings. Okay, so now these are the few key indicators, and let us dissect and take a look. You can see for both of them. Okay, if I go to Hourglass first, the revenue has been pretty stagnant over these few years. It has been growing and then stagnant. So the question is this: will people become richer in this region? Will people continue to buy luxury watches? For me, frankly, I am not too sure. But one thing that I've been observing over luxury brands, like luxury cars, luxury like watches, is this: it is pretty much recession proof. Because during a recession, when the economy goes down, typically the rich are not really affected. This is my observation. So you can see even for Hourglass, pretty much stagnant revenue over these few years, but picking up again. And you can look at here, Cortina watches, similar trend. Okay, similar trend. They went up, became stagnant, went down, and then picking up again. So you can see that this picking up portion may suggest that the economy or the buying habits is coming back into the luxury watch area. Now the thing that makes me very interested is this. Let me scroll down. I've been talking about this even in the past videos, but I like to compare between industry, the net margin. Okay, so again, this particular page I'm looking at, let me scroll up to show you. It is talking about Hourglass, and let me show the net margin of Hourglass versus the net margin of Cortina holding. Let me just show the net margin of Cortina holding first. Now the net margin is 2%, 4%, and it ranges around there, like about 3 to 6%. And in fact, right, frankly, when I take a look at this, I am a little bit uncomfortable because net margin is something that's important. If you have a very huge amount of stores that's running for you and your net margin is less than 10%, it may ring some alarm bell. Again, my thesis for Hourglass is because they are under book value. Now let me go back to Hourglass right now. Remember, Cortina about 3 to 6%, okay, or maybe 4 to 6%. You can see around there. But let's look at Hourglass. Again, this page is Hourglass. Zoom in to net margin. This is a trend that I saw. Wow. While their competitor is about 4 to 6%, you can see the Hourglass, they have been hovering steadily above their competitor. This speaks volume. Now, when you're in the same industry, selling the same thing, and you can make a much bigger margin, it shows that you have this thing called an advantage or competitive advantage. So this is something that's really cool, okay? Now, the next thing is not just the net margin, the interest coverage. When we take a look at the interest coverage, it's 87.38, meaning to say based on the amount of money that they are making this year, they can pay back their interest about 87 times. So you can see that their interest, meaning to say the amount of debt they hold, is pretty low, okay? And there are many other good indicators in this asset heavy industry, like even for their return on equity. Usually for asset heavy industry where they need huge amount of money to hold on to gold watches, hold on to diamond watches, and they have boutique stores, I don't expect the return on equity to be extremely high. But for this case, you can see that Hourglass, their return on equity, I mean, it is pretty high, above 10. In fact, we are looking for 15 most of the time. But for this particular asset stock, that's where I actually am interested. Now, last portion, let's take a look at the dividends. Over the years, they've been paying out dividends consistently. Sometimes it fluctuates here and there, but I realized that they peg their dividends based very much on the profits that they make this year. So one thing that I really like is their payout ratio. Can you see that? Their payout ratio has not been more than 30% except for this particular year in 2009. But other than that, they have been keeping a lot of cash, and you can see that they are interested in expanding as well. And one last portion before you make your own conclusion on whether you want to actually buy this stock. You can see that here the free cash flow per share. I think this is one portion that one of the audience asked me. I think it was from an email. Please put your comments below so that I can answer your comments immediately. But you can see that the free cash flow per share, for example, is growing, okay, to even like 10 cents, 8 cents, and compared to the dividends they are giving out at 2 cents, you can see they have tons of cash left, okay. So they have tons of free cash flow left in order to give out like good steady dividends. So even though Hourglass is not giving out a huge dividend in terms of dividend yield, meaning to say the price has not really go down rock bottom where you can pick it up at such a good price yet, in my opinion, I'm going to pick up some of these stocks. Not the watches, but the stocks, okay? So this is my opinion. Now, let me just show something. So this is the key thesis. Currently under book value, which is 0.85, low PE, holding a lot of cash with low debt, more efficient than their competitor. Now, I want to tell you about the key risk. The key risk is this. If you read the chairman's statement, Henry Tay, he has some like cases last year with his wife, but well, let's look at what he says about the retail industry. It seems like he has a number of issues to handle. But the first thing is this. He mentioned that the millennials will account for 40% of the luxury market. So why is this a key risk? Because of their global shopping habits. Now for the millennials, I'm not millennial, but if you are, you will realize that most people nowadays, they are really shopping online. So online may be the next key thing. However, I've been thinking, like even for luxury cases, like will you buy a Porsche online? Okay, maybe not to the extent, but if it's something really expensive, wouldn't you want to go and experience and take a look at the watches yourself? Of course, you can go and take a look at the watches in the shop and buy them online. That may be possible as well. So this is one key risk. Second portion, okay, the second line, you can see that the CEO mentioned that their management and sales team have been running twice as hard just to remain in the same place. This is very worrying as well, but I like the honesty. I like them seeing the key risk. So whether they can actually turn this around, I mean, they are not in a trouble right now. They are still making tons of millions every single year, and they are becoming more efficient if you look at the net margin. But they identify their issue earlier on. I like this kind of statements where they are very honest upfront. We are facing issue, we're going to solve it. And this is the last portion. They say that 45, okay, you see in the past 45% of the money is spent on goods and services. Now, goods, products, but now 69%. Increasingly, more people pay for services and experience. This is a trending observation that anyone can observe if you are in the service industry, goods and services industry. So basically, again, I like the honesty of the management. I see that they are identifying these key risks. So therefore, coming back to this portion, Hourglass, okay, you can see that right now, the key thesis, under book value, dividends, not that bad, 3% plus. I will be eyeing for higher, probably enter at maybe a slightly lesser price than now, but even then, I do not mind collecting a bit of this stock and putting it in my watch list to watch it a bit further. So this is my sharing for this week. Hope that you have learned something, and I see you next week where I'll talk about more dividend stocks. Next week, I'll be talking about another Singapore dividend stock that has much higher yield, and it is in my portfolio already. So that's all this week. I'll see you next week. Goodbye.